Hello, welcome back to everybody's favorite VrChat world creation course here, Crash Course with Urael. I am your host, Urael, the man, the myth, the legend himself. I'm hungover, but I'm always hungover, so this is as good a time as any to be making this tutorial. This is probably going to be another long one, and it's actually probably going to be one of the last ones. I may have one or two more classes after this one is over. Probably more than likely just one. Honestly, there will not be much left to cover after this. You will have all of your basics down, and you will basically, if you just go through all of the tutorials and you spend time mastering everything that I teach you, you will literally be able to just create almost anything you want, outside of things like crazy 3D modeled things that you spend hours or days on in Blender and all that stuff. So we're gonna be going over probably like probably the most fun stuff today. So let's just get straight into it. I'm not gonna waste any time. Where we left off last time, we had our scene that looks similar to this, I believe. I just watched that video and someone's texting me, and you're not important right now. I still don't know what the hell is causing this problem. It seems like there's some sort of light map stitching or something like that in Unity's lighting rendering system. I've tried a lot of different fiddling with a lot of different settings. This scene I'm using is different from the one in the actual Poseidon Discord server where I'm teaching live classes. And I got this same issue in a different scene too. So I really don't know what the problem is here. I tried a lot of different things trying to fix it, and the easiest fix I found was to import bakery. So I want to teach you about bakery, and I think I said I was going to last class period, and then I forgot to edit in a little before and after shot. But basically, bakery is a GPU light mapper. So instead of using your CPU to render lighting, which Unity does on its own, with this lighting task, so I click generate lighting, and it uses my CPU to render the lighting. Bakery uses your GPU, and it has a lot more customizability. It's got RTX on it. It makes your emissive materials look outstanding. It makes everything look so much better. It's also way more efficient, and it takes way less time than Unity does to take rendering a scene. I think I tested it one time. It took about 2 hours for Unity to render a light map scene, and whenever it took bakery about 12 minutes. So it's, forgive me, I'm sipping on a Capri Sun to help this hangover. But so bakery is about like 12 times or so more efficient than Unity is normally. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, it doesn't really matter. And I guarantee whenever I click this render button on bakery, my problem here is going to be did away with, and my scene is just gonna look way better anyways. Thing about bakery, it's on the asset store. It is a $55 asset, so that's a pretty steep price tag. I know, especially for some of you that are like in college or whatever, and you don't have like disposable income like I did whenever I bought it. I bought bakery on sale. It was half off. It was $27.50. And it was the best $27.50 I've ever spent in my entire life, basically. I'm just here to tell you this now. If you use Unity's rendering system for your entire career, you will not be able to create worlds that look as great as real professional looking, just the really popular worlds, your Void Club, your FBT Heaven, your Black Cat, your Great Pug. All of those places use bakery or some sort of GPU light mapper to create their lighting. And since lighting is the most important aspect of your VrChat world, you will need to get bakery one day or another. Start an OnlyFans, a GoFundMe, something like that, and like really as soon as you can, get bakery and learn how to use it. It is not difficult. it actually, whenever I click this render button, it's going to automatically detect optimal settings for my hardware, and it's going to render a light map, similar to how Unity does it, but better. Just better, honestly. Bakery is just Unity's lighting software, but way better, more efficient, everything like that. If you cannot afford Bakery at this time and you want to learn lighting still, and I probably didn't cover it as good as I could have in the last video, because like I've used Bakery my entire career basically, and yeah, and you can see that problem went away, and that was actually way faster than Unity would have rendered it. And now my scene looks like this compared to like what it looks like before, and it's a huge difference. But if you cannot afford Bakery at this time, there is a YouTube video explaining. I was catching myself up, don't judge me. Explaining the regular Unity lighting software system here. This guy does a really good job at explaining it, and he pretty much teaches you everything you need to. Brackies, he's an amazing guy. I love all of his videos, help me out a lot. And he teaches like everything you need to know basically. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about lighting, and then we'll get into more fun stuff like VrChat triggers. And actually, at the end of this, we will be testing our VrChat world and making sure that everything's working good. But that's the difference between Bakery and Unity's lighting system. Bakery is better, even if it is a little bit expensive. Do what you gotta do. Just get Bakery. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take out a couple of these lights. There's not that many in the original Wing of Storms, which is what I'm creating. It's a part of my I'm a club owner, and the Wing of Storms is part of my social event map, Wings of Fire, and that's what I'm creating here. Is like this nice loft architecture. It'll be rainy and just nice and chill place, really. There's actually lights inside of here. Don't mind me, I'm just trying to recreate the masterpiece that was the Wing of Storms in its time. I remember I finished my entire social event map, and I took people to Wing of Storms, and I was like, yeah, you can really see where all the effort went. I love this part of the map so very much. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that like that for right now. All of these lights are actually blue in the original, so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this white emissive material with Control D, and it creates a new one. And you can change the color of your emission by just going to this little HDR box right here, and you get this wheel, and you can just change that like that. I go for a little bit of a deeper blue for mine, 002AFF if you want to use my exact one, with intensity 1.9169. If you want my exact material settings there, and I'm gonna slap that on all of these outside lights, because all of these outdoors are blue. I'm just going for, you know, exact replica sake. There's actually two lights here, but those stairs aren't there. Okay, that's fine. There's also nice blue lights on top of on the bottom of these pillars. So I do not know if I went over this, but just as you select a face and you put a regular like shale material on it, or like a wood material on it or something, you can also put emissive materials on faces just like this. As long as you have face selection in Pro Builder and you have a face selected, you can put it just on those faces. You don't have to put it on the entire cube. So if I did that, it would make the pillar look like that while I have object select. Instead, I can just put it on the top of those faces, and it looks something like that. Let me move. This couch is way too big. Let me worry about the scale of my couch some more, as all men do. Okay, that'll be fine for now. I'm gonna select the top of these faces too. I'm gonna put this, oops. Still waking up, just woke up. Anyways, okay, put that on top of those. And I'm gonna re-render this light map. So if you're using Unity, you're just gonna click generate lighting. If you're using Bakery, do render light map. So emissive materials are what is called a baked light, meaning they don't give off real-time light. Man, that Capri Sun hitting. A baked light is not real light. It is baked lighting is a lie. Baked lighting is just something. It's just light that gets added onto a material. So all these lights are doing is just adding a blue color onto the material of that shale or that wood or whatever it is right there. So if I bring our friend over here, our avatar, and I put him next to it, notice how he doesn't turn more blue. That's because that light isn't actually real. It's just added onto the texture, onto the material, just like this white light here. It's just emitting a texture onto this material, and it's not doing anything. So if we go onto our camera, we have 61 batches in the scene right now, which is really, really good for, I mean, what we're looking at here. But something that I want to show you is the difference between real-time and baked lighting whenever it comes to optimization. So a baked light, so I'm going to add a bakery point light onto this script onto this real fast, just because bakery won't register baked lighting unless you have a bakery point light script on it. So I'm going to re-render this real fast, and it's going to light up this scene. I worked on my social event map for 2.5 months for 8 hours a day, and probably about 50% of that time was just waiting for the light map to render, for being 100% honest. You can skip ahead in this. I'm just killing time. Okay. So you can see we now have, it's now lit up a little bit better. It looks like our friend got lit up a little bit more, but I assure you he didn't. We still have 61 batches in our scene. Did we have 65 earlier? Did you get rid of batches? That's interesting. Okay. But our friend isn't lit up anymore here, and our batches are still low. That's because this is a baked point light. It's baked, quotation marks, into the light map, which is, again, just painting textures onto your materials, onto your surfaces. So if I delete this and I re-render the light map, which again is just takes like 1 minute. Really sorry, I know it's annoying, but you know, this is the life of a VrChat world developer, is waiting for the light map to render. That's literally so much of it. It's actually crazy. Thankfully, though, this is a small scene, and we're not sitting here for 12 minutes at a time, as I've done every time you want to make a change to the light map. Like, I've done that before. It's not a fun time. Okay, but you can see our scene got darker here because we removed that light. And we still have 61 batches. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go to create light, point light. And I'm going to leave that right there. Now notice the mode is real time now. So this is actually lighting our friend up. This is actually putting light onto the surfaces in real time. Now, is this going to be more or less optimized? I think that's pretty obvious. We now have 110 batches in our scene. So that added 39 batches, just that one light. So real-time lighting is something you have to use really, really cautiously. 99% of the time, I recommend just using a base light. In Unity's lighting system, all you have to do to make a baked light is change this mode from real time to baked, and then render your light map by going generate lighting. Yeah, if you're using bakery, you have to add a bakery point light, a bakery direct light, or a skylight. I think there's a spotlight thing on here somewhere. I'm not really sure, but you have to add a bakery script onto your lighting whenever you're creating baked lighting with Unity like that. And then you'll have a baked light. The only real time you want to use real-time lighting is whenever you want your avatars to be affected by the lighting, or whenever you have something that's animated in the scene. Because if something's animated, if it's moving, it's not static. I think I went over that in the last course. You get this static check mark over here, which just means, you know, this thing is not going to move. That's all that static means. Let me adjust the window here a little bit more so you can... I don't know why it's like that. Okay. Static just means it's not going to move. So it means that it can receive baked lighting. If something isn't static, it cannot receive baked lighting. So if I uncheck that and I render the light map, my architecture is going to start looking a little janky. If something's not static, that means that it can move in the scene if it's like given a trigger to do so. So if something's animated, if you have like a rolling ball, for example, that means that it's not going to be able to receive baked lighting. That's all that means. So if you want something to receive lighting and it's not static, that's when you use real-time lighting. So, you know, your avatar isn't static because you're moving around in the scene. If you want your avatar to receive lighting, you use real-time lighting. But other than that, use baked lighting 99% of the time, because that saves on world optimization. And that is something that's just absolutely crucial to your success as a VrChat world creator. So that's the difference between real-time and baked lighting and how those work. I'm gonna do, I can actually go ahead. I'm gonna create a nice blue hue here because our scene is kind of dark right now. Kind of, sorta, ish. I mean, Wing of Storms is a pretty dark part of my map anyways, but this is just ridiculous. I'm gonna add a bakery point light onto here, and I'm gonna change light map to real time. And whenever I render the light map now, it's gonna look like that. It's just going to not be as badly optimized as it is now. Okay, so now you're seeing my look something like this. If you decide to purchase bakery and import it, if not, you may still be having problems with your light map settings again. Go check out that video by Brackies, and maybe they can help you out with that. I'm really sorry, I don't know how Unity's lighting system completely functions. I do not believe it is very hard to figure out, though, if you so desire to take that path. But next, what I'm going to go over is I suppose VrChat triggers, I think, is where I was at yesterday. So every VrChat world needs a mirror. I went over this with the class. I literally said, what's every VrChat world need? There was a show of hands. Everyone's just like, every world needs a mirror, because people love to look at themselves while they talk for some odd reason. I really don't understand the psychology behind all of that, but it is just an undeniable fact that the people love their mirrors. So you want a mirror toggle in your scene. So I'm going to teach you how to create that, and this is where we begin to hard code, and you spend hours writing a script for one single mirror. And no, that's a total lie. Maybe in SDK3. In SDK2 though, creating a mirror is actually fairly simple. Just follow exactly what I do, and I'm actually gonna... Sorry, I forgot to do this in the last session. There are two emissive materials on those edges there, so on the guardrail and on the window there. But creating a mirror toggle is not terribly complicated. Just follow my exact steps and kind of do it a couple of times and just get used to it, and you'll be able to do it fairly easily. So what you're going to do first is you're going to create your trigger. Now, your trigger can be anything you want it to be. In the original Wing of Storms, it's actually a sword. It's a sword that's stabbing into this pillar right here, and there's a mirror right here in front of your couch, and you can have a conversation with all your homies there. You can ERP with your girl there, you know, you can do whatever you want there. But the first thing you want to do is create your trigger. So it can be anything you want. Like I said, I'm just going to use a Pro Builder cube as a button here. So you can make a Pro Builder cube, you can literally put in any game object, and it can be a trigger. Like, you can make anything into a trigger. So, but I'm going to use a cube. I'm going to click build. I'm going to go to inspector. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to make sure that these two boxes here are checked. So everything you build in Pro Builder comes with a mesh collider. Make sure that it is set to convex, and then whenever it's set to convex, click is trigger. You can also add a box collider onto something at any time, and you can just click is trigger. You click add component, search box, and click box collider. And while you have your box collider on, you can click is trigger and it'll work at the same. The only difference is really is if you when you hover your hand or your cursor over your button, if you have a box collider, what's going to be highlighted is that box collider. Whereas if you have a mesh collider, it's just going to have that sort of blue like outline of the object of the mesh, right? So since this is a box, it's not going to make a difference if I have it as a mesh collider or a box collider. But if it were, say, a sword, and I had a box collider on it, it'd be kind of janky, kind of funny looking. But so for more complex things, use a mesh collider. It doesn't really matter since, I mean, it's not a real collider since it's convex anyways. If you have a lot of colliders in your scene, especially really complex ones, it can actually be less optimized. But that's a story for another time. Right now, just if you have a mesh collider, make sure that your boxes are set to convex and is trigger. Then you're going to click add component on what you want on your button or whatever it is that you want to turn your mirror on, and you're going to search VRC_trigger. So, and that's going to come up with this right here, collider event trigger. I don't know what the hell that is. VRC trigger. You're going to hear a lot of I don't know what the hell this does from me today, because there's a lot of stuff that I don't know what it does, and I still make great worlds. You know, you don't really, that's an example of you don't really have to learn everything that a software has to offer. I think it's the 80-20 rule. There's it's like 20% of the stuff in a software you use 80% of the time, or something like that. Or maybe 80% of the software you only use 20%. It's one of those two. You don't have to learn everything, but so I'm gonna click on this box where it says custom. This is what will trigger your trigger. Basically, it's what will happen or what you will do that will cause an event in the game to happen. So there's a lot of stuff here on this list. There's on enter collider, on drop, on key down, on key up, on pickup, on timer, on enter trigger, on network ready, on player join. I'm gonna be real with you, I probably know how 5 of these triggers on this whole list work. I know I've done custom before. On player join and on player left, those are self-explanatory. On pickup, use down, on pickup, use up. I don't know what the hell those do. I don't know how on timer works. I know how on enter and on exit trigger work, because those speak for themselves again. Key down, key up, I don't know what those do. So you know, you have all these options. You really don't have to concern yourself with learning all of them. The one I'm going to focus on right now is on interact. So on interact is probably the one you're going to end up using 99% of the time for your triggers. This just means you're going to hover your hand over it or your cursor, and you're going to click on the button, and that is what's going to cause this event to happen. So there's on interact, there's also on enter collider. That means you're going to touch this collider and then your event is going to happen. So if I selected that and I walked into this cube, then the mirror would turn on. But I want to be able to click on this button and the mirror is going to turn on. So I'm going to do on interact, and I'm going to click add. And you're going to get this sort of scene, this sort of menu right here. I'm going to first talk about this box where right next to on and rank where it says always buffer 1. So again, you get another list here. You can spend some time learning all of these. It's not a lot. They pretty much all do the same thing. Really, these four, and this one. No, actually, just go ahead and learn all these. I'll go ahead and go over all 6 of these, and then local, the unbuffered ones, or not unbuffered, but buffer 1. So always buffer 1, I believe, is what it's set to by default. Always buffer 1 means that you click on this trigger and everyone that is in the world is going to see it happen. So if you have always buffer 1 and you click on your mirror toggle, that mirror is going to turn on for everyone in the scene. For a mirror toggle, you really don't want that. For other things, you may want that. But for a mirror toggle, you want to be local, because local means that only that you click that trigger and it's only going to happen for you. So a local mirror toggle is usually 99% of the time what you want, unless you like torturing your friends by forcing them to look into a mirror and their frames just go to absolute shit. I mean, if you're like that, I mean, power to you, I suppose. But for a mirror toggle, you want to be local. Always buffer 1 again means that everyone in the scene is going to see this trigger happen, and if somebody joins the world before after you click the trigger, so if I click a button and someone joins the world 5 seconds later, that means that they're going to see what the latest trigger was. So it actually explains them right here. All are able to activate this trigger for everyone, and late joiners will trigger the most recent one. So if I turn the mirror on and I leave it on and somebody joins the world after I turn it on, they will see that the mirror is on. And so, yeah, it gets a little bit confusing, but just know, basically, all you really have to worry about is always buffer 1, makes it so that everyone sees your trigger, and local means that only you see it. You can also worry about master. Master means that the person who's been in the instance longest is the only person that can use this trigger. So if I create an instance in VrChat, and I go, I can use this trigger, but if I leave and someone else joined before me, like whoever was in the world the second longest, whenever I leave, will become the master, and then they can use this trigger. There's also owner, which means only the owner of the world can use this trigger. That you can do some pretty cool and unique stuff with that, I suppose. I actually do use that in one of my event maps, where only I can click on this book and it sends a hurl of lightning from the sky. It's pretty cool. So it's like, oh, Array's here, you know. It doesn't matter too much. So that's what all of these sort of do. I don't know what unbuffered does. Late join, yeah. So unbuffered means late joiners won't trigger it. Buffer 1 means it will trigger it for late joiners. That was pretty easy. But we again want it to just be local. All are able to activate the trigger for themselves only. That's what you want on a mirror toggle. Interaction text, you can change that to whatever you want. I'm just gonna do it so it says mirror. That's just the text that appears whenever you hover your hand over something or you hover your mouse over something. You can do delay in seconds if you like giving delay graphication. You know, wait 30 seconds after you turn your mirror on. In general, you just want that to be 0. Proximity, that's from how far away you can use the trigger. You can this is in meters. You can do up to 100 meters away. 99% of the time, 2 meters is just fucking dandy. I never really ever mess with that. Then you have your actions list down here. So you're gonna click this plus sign here, this little plus sign with like a little drop of blood next to it or something. I really don't know what that is. I never figured out what that is. I was like, why the hell's that plus sign bleeding? And you're gonna get this little menu here. It says basic events, and you're gonna get this again huge list of things, and you're gonna vomit a little bit. Again, I don't know what a lot of these do. I've done activate custom trigger. I've never used add angular velocity. Like, what the hell is that? Add damage. Add damage. What the hell is damage? You don't have health in VrChat. I guess you can like make health somehow, health system somehow. I've never done that before. Send RPC. I don't know what that does. The only two you really ever have to worry about is the only two I've ever worried about, at least, is set game object active and teleport player. And we're going to get into teleport player right after we're done creating this mirror toggle. So set game object active does exactly what it sounds like it does. It sets a game object from inactive to active. It turns an object or a game object on. You can turn anything you want on and off with this trigger. You can do some amazing things with this trigger. Really, it doesn't sound like a lot, but you can turn lights on and off. You can set particle systems on and off. You can do any architecture in your hierarchy can be turned on and off. You can get really creative with it, honestly. This combined with teleport player is what I use in all of my event maps for spawning in my dancers and stuff. And you can just get really creative with it. Set game object active is probably the most important sort of like trigger to learn for you right now. So learn it. I will go over it in vast detail here. But that's what set game object active does. So for this, you want to turn your mirror from an off position to an on position. So you're going to want set game object active for this instance, and you're going to click on, and you're going to get this actions menu, and you're going to get another sort of drop down menu. This is the last one, I promise. You get a receivers list here, and with that, if you leave this receivers list empty, it says right here, this trigger will target the game object it's on because the receivers list is empty. So right now, if I click this cube, the cube's just gonna disappear. And I've actually had that happen before, and I was like, God fucking damn it, how did I forget how to do that? But you can avoid that by clicking on the plus sign here, and you're gonna get a receivers thing. This is where you create your mirror. To create a VrChat mirror, you just go into your files, your assets here. When you imported your VrChat SDK, you got a folder called VrChat examples. You're gonna click prefabs 2, and you have a couple of prefabs in here. But this one, the one you want is your VRC mirror. You're gonna drag that into your scene, and it'll look something like that. Ain't it pretty? It's already reflecting everything and everything. Go ahead and click on your scale tool if you want your mirror to be right here. This is where it's at in the original Wing of Storms. It's in front of this couch. And you chill with the homies right here. It's pretty nice. Beautiful. But this mirror, whenever I go into my world now, is always on, and you cannot turn it off. So we're going to go back to our we're first going to turn the mirror off, so select it and just click this check mark here. Inactive. Beautiful. Click on your trigger here, and we're going to go back to actions where it says receivers, and now you want your receiver because that's the game object that is going to be set to active or inactive. You want your receiver to be your mirror. So you can either go into your hierarchy and find it, and you can just click and drag it into the receivers thing, and it's going to draw a white line there. It's going to say, hey, that's what this is connected to. You can also click on this little like icon here, this little cursor icon or whatever it is, and you can actually search your hierarchy. So you can search for VRC mirror, and it's there it is right there too, and you can just click on it and it adds it into there for you. And we're almost done. So now all you have to worry about is the operation. The operation right now is false. I believe it defaults to false. Right now, if I click on this cube, nothing's going to happen because the mirror is already off and it's receiving a signal to be turned off again. If you want something to be turned off without receiving a signal to turn it back on, you will set your operation to false. There you get this thing. All of these are important. If I know what all of them do. Operation true. That means that object will be turned on until it receives a signal from something else to be turned off. And that's true. So if I have it set to true, I go in right now and I click on this button, this mirror is going to be turned on and it will not be able to be turned off. For things like mirrors, you know, sorry, for things like mirrors, you obviously want them to be able to be turned off because mirrors are laggy, and you, generally speaking, want to be able to turn them off. So what you're going to do is you're going to go back to cube after you're done being OCD like I was, and you're going to do toggle. Toggle means that this button can turn your game object on and off with multiple selections. So if I go in there and I click on this button, it's going to turn the mirror on since it's in off position. And if I go in and I click on the button again while the mirror is on, it's going to turn it off. And that right there is how you create a VRC mirror trigger. Just like that. This is exactly how your menus should look. For mirror toggles, they should never look different than this, basically. So if I go in right now and I click on this button, this mirror function is going to work just fucking wondrously, and you love to see it. So that's great. Yeah. So that's your mirror toggle. Now I'm gonna teach you how to do a teleport trigger, because that's something that's very important, obviously, for whenever you are creating a world with multiple rooms. So what I did yesterday in my Poseidon course was I just went ahead and created a platform, just a cube. I just created a cube in the sky, and I click build. And I'm going to create a trigger that will get us from here to there and there to there. So I'll show you how to do that real fast. So again, your button, your trigger can be anything you want it to be. I'm just going to create a 1x1x1 cube. And just going to leave it right there. Sure, click build. Again, make sure convex and is trigger are selected. Click add component, search VRC trigger. Custom, you're going to do on interact again, because you want to be able to click on this button and you will be teleported to your location. Click add. For teleport triggers, always buffer 1. If you set your teleport trigger to local, you will only teleport for yourself, and for other people you're still going to be standing at this trigger and you're going to be walking around and talking as if you're in another room, but you're not going to be in another room. You're going to be stuck at this trigger for yourself. So make sure that your teleport triggers are always set to always buffer 1, because you want everybody to be able to see that you have teleported to that location. Interaction text, again, this can be whatever you want. It can be Gucci belt on wall. It can literally be anything. I'm just gonna do teleport. Proximity, again, doesn't matter too much. It's just units in meters, 2 meters away. That's just fine. Again, click on this plus sign where it says actions, because this is what you want your trigger to do, and you're going to find at the very bottom teleport player, and you're going to click on your menu here again, and you're going to see receivers. This is where you will be teleported to. Now you may be thinking you can just click on this cube and drag it into your receivers box and you'll be good and dandy. That's not true. I've done that before. You don't want to do that, because your ass is going to get stuck inside of your cube, because it's going to teleport you in like the middle of it, and it's not a fun experience for anybody. Believe me, I thought I was slick with that one too. No, what you actually want to do, I want to go out to your cube, and you're going to go up here to where it says create, and you're going to create empty. This creates air. It literally doesn't create anything. It's just adds something to your hierarchy here called game object. You want to name your game objects. Always name your game objects, because you use game objects for a lot of things. You use game objects for colliders. You use game objects for voice amplifiers. You use game objects for post-processing. You use game objects for teleporting into rooms. And if you have a lot of rooms in your place and they're all named, and all of your spawns are named game object, well, you're not going to know where the hell you're teleporting to. Right? So name your game objects. I'm going to rename this game object just to platform spawn Doesn't matter what you name it to. Make absolutely sure, zoom in as close as you can to this piece of air here, and make sure that it is resting on your architecture, because this is, again, where you will be teleported to. Another thing is to make sure that the blue arrow is facing where you want to be facing whenever you spawn in. So to rotate a game object a perfect amount, you just do it in dividends of 90, because it turns it to 90-degree angles on the y-axis. For this, I know I have to change it to negative 90 degrees. That turns it to that turns it to the left. If you do negative 180, it's going to turn it. I did double negative. It's going to turn it that way. If I do negative 270, it's going to turn it that way. And if I do negative 360, it's just going to turn it to the way it's at whenever it's at 0. Right? So you want your blue arrow to be facing where you want to be facing whenever you teleport in. So if I want to be facing towards the architecture, I want to rotate this negative 90 degrees. If I set that back to 0, something you can also do is you can just use your rotate tool and change it so that the red axis there on the top is facing where you want to be facing. And you'll notice just like that. I don't really know what the correlation with the blue is there. Doesn't matter. And you can see it just rotated negative 90 degrees. But that's just something you kind of just get the hang of it. As time goes on, like, I automatically looked at this and I was like, oh, I got it rotated negative 90 degrees. But so yeah, that's just facing where you want to be facing whenever you teleport in. So now we're going to go back to this, and we're going to go into the receivers box, and we can again just either drag this into the box here, the platform spawn game object, and it's going to draw a line there saying, hey, this is where it's going to teleport you to. Or we can again click on our mouse, just type in platform spawn, and it's going to be right there. That's why it's important to name your game objects. Always name your game objects. God damn it. Do not do as I've done and have a scene just full of game objects and you just don't know what the hell they do. Align room to destination. I don't know what that does. I always just set it to false and nothing bad has ever happened to me, so I assume you can do the same. If you want to figure out what it does, I mean, fuck around and find out. That's up to you. Alert on remote clients. I don't know what that does either. I'm gonna take out the L and it'll be ERP on remote clients, and that's something I'm kind of you can do B into that. I don't really care. I'm not gonna judge you, but I don't know what that does either. I always just leave it unchecked. I always just leave these two settings completely untouched. If you want to mess around with them, you can find out what happens. But for right now, we click on this cube and we're gonna be teleported onto that platform facing the architecture of Wing of Storms. So now let's say we want to get back to the architecture because it's less pretty up here than it is over here. What you can do is whenever you have a VRC trigger onto something, you can press Control D on your trigger, on your cube, your button or whatever, and it's going to maintain all of that data. So that's something that's really, really important for whenever you say you have double doors and you want both of them to teleport you to the same exact place. Literally all you have to do is you duplicate one of the doors, and you can and literally it's the exact same thing. It's got the exact same thing on it. So right now we can drag this cube out to right about there, and if we click on it, it's going to teleport us right back to here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new empty and make sure that that's resting on the architecture. You can see it's inside the architecture right now, and that's deceiving because it looks like it's resting on it. So make sure you're zooming in, and you're gonna make that so that it's resting on the architecture. And that blue arrow is again where you want to be facing. I'm gonna go ahead and rotate that negative 90 degrees so that we're facing inwards. Doesn't really matter for this example. And I'm gonna rename it to architecture spawn. Something like that. Name it literally anything you want as long as you know what it is, because these game objects are literally just chunks of air that you can teleport to. You can pretty safely get away with just leaving your Pro Builder stuff as cube, cylinder, arch, stare, whatever, you know, usually that's not very important. If you want to be all OCD and name everything in your hierarchy, power to you, I suppose. I usually don't do that. But if you want to, you know, go ahead. No one's gonna stop you. On your receivers here, again, this is still platform spawn because this is just a duplicate of that cube. We're just gonna click on the little mouse thing, and I'm gonna go search architecture spawn. I'm gonna click that, and it draws a white line and says, hey, you're gonna be teleported to here now. So if I go in and I click on this cube, it's gonna teleport me to there. If I go in and click on this cube when I'm teleported there, it's gonna teleport me back to here. Just like that. And now you've successfully created the first two VrChat triggers, a mirror toggle and a teleport. And I literally guarantee you that is those are the only triggers you're going to be using for 99% of your career. If you get fancy with UI panels, which I can, you know, teach you how to set up one day in a later video. Those get pretty complicated. You know, UI panels, a health system, stuff like that, you know. If you get into that, you're not going to be using this really simple, basic stuff. But really, this simple, basic stuff is basically all you need to get started whenever it concerns VrChat triggers. So that's literally like all the knowledge I find practical to give you right now. So yeah, if you are ever curious about VrChat triggers, you can VrChat triggers. You just search VrChat triggers. There's a whole document on the VrChat website explaining to you exactly what all of those things do. So there's on to enable, on disable, on destroy, on spawn, network ready, all that. And then you can do actions, and it tells you what all of the actions do. Wherever that where'd that go? Oh, right here, yeah. So there's another list of animation bool, animation trigger, teleport player, set game object active, like we've already done. And you go through these, and it teaches you what all of them do and how to use them in like really, really short instances. And of course, there's also YouTube videos and things like that if you ever want to find out what all of this stuff does. But I assure you, 99% of what you're going to be doing is these two triggers that I've just taught you, teleport player and set game object active. So that's pretty fucking neato, if I do say so myself. And again, make sure your triggers are set to static so that they receive the baked lighting. All right, so now that the hard coding part of the process is over, we're going to click create up here, and we're going to go down to light. We're going to create something that doesn't actually add light to the scene. We're going to create a reflection probe. Now, a reflection probe is something that adds a nice little element to the smoothness and metallic elements of your materials. So in standard shaders with the materials on your architecture, you have these two sliders here called metallic, which changes them to being nice metal, and then you can adjust the smoothness too, which makes them kind of glossy, and you can see that's like picking up the light right there. But if you have a reflection probe, what these two sliders are going to do is actually make your materials start to reflect the environment in a realistic way. So they're really, really, really cool. So I really can't explain it very well without just showing you what it does, honestly. So let's get into it. What we're going to do first is we're going to click up here where it says edit bounding volume, and you can kind of drag this cube around. I'm going to make it so that it fits the outside only, not the inside, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. And what you actually have to bake this reflection probe into the scene, because its type is baked. There is real-time reflection probes where you can make it so that materials actually reflect the environment in real time. So like if your avatar is walking over a material that has a smoothness and metallic properties, it's actually going to show your avatar on the material. Thing is, It's really, really laggy. It looks cool, it really does, but it's really, really bad for optimization because that's a lot for your computer to take in. But you know, if you're gonna be the only person in the world, or you just want to ERP with a girl and you want to look at yourself in real time, it literally just makes like a mirror. Like, it's really cool, honestly. Whatever. So yeah, but the type right now I'm gonna deal with is real time or baked. All of these settings I'm just gonna leave normal. You can fiddle around with them if you want to. I've never done that before. I guess there's importance and intensity, which just basically probably means like how exactly photo perfect, picture perfect the reflection is. But I'm not gonna mess around with those right now. So what I'm gonna do, you can go into, if you're using Unity standard lighting, you're just gonna click on this little drop down by generate, where it says generate lighting, and you can click bake reflection probes. But if you're using Bakery, you can either render your entire light, you can either click render and it renders everything, your light probes, your reflection probes, and your light map. But if you just want to render your reflection probes, you can just click render reflection probes. And it makes this nice little sphere here of like the environment around you. And now what we can do is we can edit our materials. So I'm going to start with this slate material here that we have on our floor, and I'm going to adjust the metallic of it, make it a little nice and dark, and then the smoothness. And you can see it starts reflecting the environment in that sort of way. So you can see the glass pane there is perfectly mirrored there. It reflects it's somehow reflecting the skybox that isn't even in the scene. I had a skybox in the scene earlier, but if you actually don't want your reflection probes in your sky reflecting your skybox, I was showing someone this yesterday. You can just turn off environment reflections in your lighting scene, which you get to by going to window, rendering, lighting settings. You get to here, you can turn off environment reflections. You can just do custom, and you can see it doesn't render my skybox anymore. So if you don't want it rendering your skybox, just turn environment reflections on. I'm gonna leave that as skybox, and I'll show you how to change the skybox here in a second. But yeah, you can see it's reflecting all of this cool stuff here on the materials. Smoothness 1 on your material is always just way too much. It literally creates a perfect mirror of the environment, and that's 99% of the time not what you want. So I usually just leave it at like 0.6. You know, I just kind of fool around with it and see what looks good. What really looks impressive though is this nice material right here. Whenever you up the smoothness on it a little bit, you can see it's reflecting all of the lights really nice like that. So that's really cool too, and it gives this sort of like, I don't know, glossy, wet look to it or something like that, and it looks really nice. It's important that you keep in mind what sort of material it is, and you have to ask yourself, would it be realistic if that was reflecting light off of it, right? So like this couch is made out of fabric. Would that reflect light in real life? That's something you have to think about. Fabric wouldn't reflect light in real life. That would look fucking strange, right? So if I like change this and I set the metallic and I set the smoothness, it's gonna start reflecting the now it's a metal, it looks like it's a metal couch, right? It doesn't look comfy to sit on, so you can leave the smoothness and the metallic untouched on that one. But you know what does reflect light though is glass, and that's what this material is. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate, Control D, this reflection probe here. I'm gonna drag it inside of my scene, inside of my house. So a reflection probe, so like if I were to just make this reflection probe, I put it in the center and I just put it over the bounding box over the entire scene, it would make it so that some of the stuff outside would be rendering some of the stuff inside, and it would make it so that the stuff inside would be rendering stuff on the outside. And that is kind of not very realistic. It can kind of ruin immersion. It kind of makes stuff feel a little janky. So whenever you're separating little like areas like this, generally speaking, you just want to separate and add new reflection probes to that area. Probably I should actually have a reflection probe down here. I'm assuming like, yeah, like this is reflecting the lights up there because the reflection probe is right there, and I should have a reflection probe down here, but I don't, and that's okay. For right now, I'll leave it like that. But yes, yeah, so I'm gonna take a reflection probe and drag it into the inside there. And I'm again going to go into Bakery and render reflection probes. And already the window is now, I believe, rendering the skybox, I think. I turn the smoothness up a little bit, but so on your glass material that we made last class period, you can adjust the metallic and the smoothness on it. And you can see it's not doing anything for some reason. That's really weird. I don't know why it looks like that. It's rendering the pillar right there. Maybe I just have to move this around. I think it's important that the actual probe itself is really in the center of where you want it to be, and then the bounding volumes are just, you know, the edges of your architecture there. So I bet if I re-render this, that will start looking a little bit better. There we go. So yeah, look, now it's rendering the pillar and the lights behind it too on it. So that's way too smooth. That's, again, smoothness is a full 1. You want to add a little bit of a blur to it. Because in real life, things that render lighting like that don't perfectly mirror what is going on with them. So something a little bit like that. And I'll show you how to adjust the skybox real fast. I don't think I did that last class period. So I have a skybox here from the asset store. The asset store is a really, really nice place where you can get all kinds of nice things from people who develop games, and who make levels just like you are in your VrChat career thing. You can just search Skybox in the asset store. You can find all kinds of nice skyboxes for $10 or for free. You can find Skybox Series free. There's a lot of skyboxes in there. A skybox is literally just like everything outside of your architecture. So like you can have like a nice blue sky here. The original Wing of Storms has this nice supermoon HDR 4K skybox there. That's a $15 asset, so I'm not going to use it here. What I'm going to use instead is this skybox right here, the Starfield skybox. It's free. It's on the asset store. You just search skybox and you can find it. You can download it and then you can import it. And I already have it imported, so we're going to go ahead and go into lighting, which again is window, rendering, lighting settings. Keep that on hand though. And then you can change the skybox material. So you click on the little dot there and you can scroll down and find pink 4K skybox, and it'll start looking a little bit something like this. So that's pretty fucking nice if I do say so myself. The red and the blue really mix and match well here, I would say. So yeah, that's the skybox that I had earlier that I had turned off because I wanted to show you how to put your own skybox in. Real fast, I'm going to re-render the light map just because it's been a while since I've done it. So anytime you make any changes to baked lighting, you have to re-render your light map for it to show. Otherwise, it starts looking a little strange, like this should be emitting lighting, but it's not, and all that kind of stuff. So just gonna re-render my bakery thing here. I'm actually gonna show you something that's pretty cool that you can do with non-rendered sort of light maps real fast. So something so something that happens is it creates this nice like outline there, sort of. So what I like to do is just for example, I'll take this material and I'll just change it to black. Oh wait, no. Change it to black. Right? And then it creates that nice like sort of light is coming from underneath it, or like it's like burned into the material there sort of feel or look to it. And I think that that's really, really cool. So if you render your light map and then change the emissive material to black or like white even, maybe, I don't know if that would work. Yeah, that kind of works. That looks pretty cool there too. You know, you can create some pretty cool stuff with it. So you know, keep that in mind too. I'm actually going to change that to a little bit of a different blue color. I think that's actually more of the blue of what is actually in Wing of Storms, but I don't know. I couldn't recreate that color if I tried. It's a very, very beautiful color. But yeah, so you're seeing, if you're using Bakery, it's going to look something like this. This is almost exactly what the Wing of Storms in my social event map looks like, actually. We're only missing a couple of things now. One of those things is post-processing. Post-processing. I love post-processing. I love messing around with post-processing so very, very much. It makes my heart very happy to mess with post-processing. So what you have to do to get post-processing, which is like, post-processing is these photorealistic effects you can add into your world to make it look not just like real life, but in some cases better than real life. It's an amazing asset. It's completely free. It literally comes with Unity. So I really don't know how to quite describe it. I'm just going to show you what it does. So you're going to go into Window, Package Manager, where you got Pro Builder in your first lesson there. You're going to make sure that this dropdown is set to all packages. I think by default it's just set to built-in packages, but you want it to be all packages because post-processing is still in beta in Unity 2018.f.4.1. No, the version of Unity you're using. Basically. And this took a while for me yesterday to install. It might take a little bit for you. It's a lot of stuff to be importing. Just give it a little bit and it'll be fine. All right, so my post-processing is now in date and it's in there. What you're gonna do now is you're gonna go to your main camera, which I have set up here so I can look at my batches. 72 batches, by the way, nothing bad at all. That's a very, very, very good number right there. So what you want to do now is go with on your camera, and if you deleted your camera, go to create camera. That's it, and then change it to main camera. Make it so it can see your entire scene. Just rotate it, and you get a preview down here. Even go into game, yeah, just like that. But I got my main camera here, and you're gonna add component. You're gonna search post-processing. And you're going to find post-process layer. That's what you want to add, is a post-process layer onto it. And we're actually gonna leave this alone for now because there's a layer thing right here, and none of them have the layers that you want. So we actually have to set up the layers for VrChat. The layers in Unity are sort of, they kind of speak for themselves. They're just layers of a scene. So like, you got your UI layer, your water layer sort of thing. It's kind of hard to describe. It's not really important to understand how it works. or like why it works. If you want to look more into that, you can, like what a layer exactly is. But right now we need to set up layers for VrChat, which we haven't done yet. And I'll show you how to do that now, and I'll show you a couple of other and tell you a couple of other cool things about this. So, sorry. Whenever you have to have a spawn point in your world. That's something that like you don't really think about. It's like, oh, I don't have a spawn point for my world. Like, where am I gonna spawn in at? So to set up a spawn point for your world, you go to VrChat examples, prefabs 2, where you found your mirror just earlier, and you have something called VRC world. Drag that into your scene. This is going to be your spawn point. This is another empty game object. It doesn't have any life or mesh to it or anything. And again, where your blue arrow is facing here is where you're going to be facing when you respawn in. So I'm going to change that to, oops, still not quite good at that. Yep, it should be regular 90, because you want to be, when you respawn in the Wing of Storms, you spawn right here. There's some doors right here. And you are just facing this way. Sure, leave it right there. Again, make sure it's resting on your architecture, not inside of it. And you're fine just like that. So VRC Scene Descriptor is what makes the world yours, basically. This is what you're going to be using to add your VrChat world into the VrChat servers for other people to come in and check out. So whenever you go into your VrChat SDK and you click build and publish, and you publish this world into community labs, this VRC world descriptor, the scene descriptor, the VRC world asset, is going to become affixed onto your profile, and it's going to get a blueprint ID and everything that you can use to drop portals into and stuff like that. And so if somebody else rips this world, which does happen, unfortunately, people do steal worlds and stuff, it's going to tell them that they cannot upload this world. They do not have permission to upload this world, right? Because this world descriptor belongs to you. Obviously, they can just delete it and create a new scene descriptor. But that's just something that's like pretty cool. Is like this world, once you click build and publish, in a way, it really belongs to your profile, and it shows on your profile and all that stuff. So that's something that's pretty cool about these scene descriptors. You can change a couple of these settings. I don't know what any of them really do, but you want to make sure that your reference camera here is the camera that you have your post-process layer on. So drag your main camera into here, into your reference camera for VrChat, or else you will not be able to see your post-processing. You can also obviously click this dot and just search camera, main camera, whatever you have your camera called, casting couch camera, whatever it is. And you can do forbid user portals, which prevents people from dropping portals in your world. I don't know why you'd want that, unless you deal with a lot of like hackers that are dropping crash portals and stuff like that. Dynamic prefabs, don't know what that is. Dynamic materials, I don't know what that is. Dynamic camera portrait offset, don't know what that is either. But I'll show you how you can add jumping into your world now, because you actually can't jump in a VrChat world by default. If I were to go in right now, I could not jump, and that's very sad for me because I jump like a fucking madman whenever I'm in VrChat. I'm always jumping and clicking my stick forward, so I'm floating a little bit. I'm sure you know that feels somewhat. What you're going to do is to click add component on your VRC world, and you're going to type VRC_player mods. Not playter mods, player mods. Don't worry about this click add event handler. Don't worry about adding event handler onto that. That's an outdated, deprecated sort of like script there, so don't worry about it. Just worry about VRC_player mods. Click is room player mods, make sure that that's selected. Click add mods. You're gonna get this sort of menu here, and the first one that's selected is jump. There's also speed, voice, and health. I don't know what voice does. Speed obviously just makes you go faster. If you want to walk a little bit faster in your world, you can change that. Health adds a health system in there, I guess. You know, you're just creating a chill world. You're not gonna go out and murder some motherfuckers. So you're not gonna need a health thing for this instance, but you do want to jump, because jumping is fun. So jump, click add mod, and you can jump now, and you can change the jump power to like 500 and you'll jump super high, but usually just 3 is just fine. I don't know what sort of unit of measurement that is, because you don't jump in the air 3 meters or anything, but whatever, really. So yeah, you can jump in your world now. So now, before we can set up post-processing, we have to click on VrChat SDK up here, and we have to show control panel. Now your VrChat SDK may not look like this. You may have to sign into it. I think maybe if I log out, and maybe it'll look something like this for you. I think it should. I'm gonna log into my account. I don't have 2FA. And as long as you're allowed to publish worlds and allowed to publish avatars, you know, you do have to be a new user or above to publish VrChat worlds. If you're still a visitor, go out and make a couple of friends and, you know, hang out, and you'll get new user in like a day, maybe. I'm a trusted user, so, you know, I just do whatever the hell I want, really. And you're gonna go to Builder once you're logged into your VrChat SDK. You log in with your VrChat login, and you get this screen right here once you go to Builder, and it says, like, you must address the above issues before you can build or test the content. What are you doing? Fuck you! No, you just click set up layers for VrChat, and that's what you want to do, and you're gonna just click do it, and it's gonna do that. In order for testing and development to run smoothly as necessary, you configure your project's collision matrix to match that of VrChat, and you want to do that, and it does it for you. Click do it, and just like that, you are now good to actually click build and test if you want to, and you can actually go into your VrChat scene, and a lot of beautiful things will be unfolded before you. But we're not going to do that right now. We're going to set up post-processing. So now you can click on this camera, and on your post-process layer that you edited earlier, click layer and do post-processing. This is VrChat post-processing. This is fancy post-processing now. Mode, I just do FXAA. That's the fastest post-processing that you can have. Click fast mode because it'll make you a little bit more optimized. Post-processing 99% of the time is not really something to worry about whenever you're concerning optimization. It does not add more batches into your world. Most of the time. Sometimes it might add like 2 or 3 if you go really crazy with it, but post-processing for the most part is just for aesthetics, and it will not affect optimization of your world, but it really makes your world look completely different. It is such an amazing asset that we have in modern technology. So I'm going to re-enable my lighting. I'm going to create a new wait, did I forget to do anything? No, I don't think I did. No, okay. So you're gonna create empty. You're gonna create a new game object. What do we do with game objects? We rename them so that we know what the hell we're dealing with. You can name it to ding, dong, doofus, fuck, whatever you so desire to have your game objects name. Just make sure that you know what they are. For this, I'm just gonna call it post-processing. Post-processing, yep, works for me. Okay, and you gotta make sure that this layer again is post-processing. So this layer, click that, post-processing. It doesn't have to be static, that doesn't matter at all. Click add component onto this and do insert post-processing. Do post-processing volume on your game object now. Click is global. Right now, since post-processing is still in beta, you can have multiple post-processing volumes, but they're always going to be global. You can't set the bounds for post-processing, so you can't have your post-processing you can't have one post-processing setup in one room and another in another. I mean, I guess you could if you use VrChat triggers, which is actually something that's really cool. Is you can, with the help of some sort of like, with the set game object active Damn, sorry, I keep losing my train of thought. My bad. With the set game object active trigger, you can turn post processing on and off for one. You can also change to a different layer of post processing, a different volume of post processing, and you can have different sort of effects. This is something that I've done before in this new commission world that I'm doing, which is this nice. I don't know why the hell it's doing that. Hold on. I guess. What the hell is going on with it? Hello? Hold on. I'm trying to show you this video and it's not. Is it like, oh, okay. There we go. So the world right now is in this sort of like dusky sort of mood. I just am going through. There's a waterfall there. Looks nice. Post-processing right now is set to a sort of orangish sort of feel. I jump down and I click on this cube and the post-processing just completely changes into this beautiful blue nighttime sort of sleepy type of vibe here. So I just did that with two receivers and one trigger. And the world completely changed like that. So that's something that you can do with post-processing and set game object active. That's why it's so important to learn these two things, because they just can absolutely turn your world into something just incredible. So on this profile, where it says profile here, just click new, and it's just gonna make this game object into a post-processing layer or a volume. And it's gonna turn into this nice color wheel. So now we can start adding effects and we can start playing around with it. So click add effect, it's going to have unity, and you're going to get a couple of these. I will actually go through and teach you what all of these do, or the lack of what some of these do, because some of them don't seem to have any effect. I'm probably just using them wrong. We're mainly going to be focusing on 4, but I am going to go through what all of them do. So we're going to start with, I'm not going to do ambient occlusion yet. I'm going to go ahead and do bloom, because bloom is something that a lot of very popular VrChat worlds use. Bloom, I don't know how to describe what it does. I'm just going to crank up the intensity and you can see what it does for yourself on these emissive materials. You can see it makes them look less like that and more like that. It just increases the intensity of the lights. This is obviously like way too much bloom. Bloom is something that's really, really deceiving in the VrChat scene or the Unity scene when compared to what it will look like in VrChat, because bloom affects everything in VrChat. So it affects your avatar. If your avatar is really bright and you have a lot of bloom, you can look like a flash. You can start looking a little bit like a flashbang. It affects your UI, so I actually have a bit of a horror story here. I put way too much bloom in this world, and that's what my UI started looking like. My eyes were absolutely just bleeding out of my head by that point, and I was blinded. So make sure that you go a little easy on the bloom. If it looks like this in the scene, it's going to be way too much in VrChat. It's more intense in VrChat than it is in the Unity scene. So probably for this, I'm just going to keep it at 1.5, and that will be just absolutely beautiful. And we can go back and we can add more effects onto this layer. So we're going to do ambient occlusion now. So ambient occlusion is this really nice thing where it sort of occludes what you're not quite in view of. Obviously this is a really intense example because I just cranked the intensity up to 4. It sort of does this nice little tunnel vision sort of thing like that, and you can adjust its thickness, just how dark it gets. You can change the color of it too. If you wanted to do something like that, that'd be really cool. Only thing with ambient occlusion is it adds this sort of, well, at least whenever you have it, maybe I gotta up the intensity a little bit more. Yeah. It adds this sort of like black halo-ish sort of outline to your avatar, and it makes it look kind of strange. If you have a really intense ambient occlusion, it will do something like that to your avatar. and it looks really, really weird. So I usually avoid using ambient occlusion in my VrChat worlds. I mean, if you want to go ahead and use it anyways, that's on you. You can experiment with it and see what looks good. But for the most part, you know, it makes avatars look a little strange. So if you use it, I recommend using it with caution. I'm not going to be using it in this scene, but I just want to show you what it does. Auto exposure. This is something that I will be using. You can adjust the filtering percentage of it. You can drag the minimum down or up, and it's really just like a sort of brightness modifier like this. So if you want a little bit of a darker scene, drag your minimum. I usually just leave the maximum at 9 and then just drag the minimum up and down. And if you want your scene to be a little bit darker, you can leave it like that. If you want it to be a little bit brighter, you can drag it down. And it's just this nice little sort of brightness to darkness effect. So I'll probably just leave mine a little bit darker, like 0.2, sure. I think at 0 it doesn't do anything, but at 0.2 it you know, it makes it a little bit darker. Maximum compensation, you can, or exposure compensation, sorry, you can adjust that in. Basically it just does the same thing. I don't know what this does, honestly. You change it, nothing really changes. But you know, auto exposure, I'm gonna leave that right about there-ish. Sure, just very light on that. But again, you can fool around with that and see what works. Chromatic aberration. I actually don't think this does anything unless you have a texture for it. Oh wait, no, yeah, it does this sort of like shaky sort of thing, and this is what your avatar will see in VrChat whenever you go into it, into your scene. So you're gonna have this like shaky sort of screen here, so you know, I don't want any of that in my scene. You could probably do something pretty cool with that with triggers and stuff like that, but right now I'm just gonna leave that completely off. All right. Yeah, chromatic aberration, leave that off. Color grading. This is something that's actually really, really important. Mode, all this stuff you can leave the same. You can adjust the temperature of your room so you can make it feel nice and hot, or you know, nice and cool. It's really just like an RGB slider sort of. So you can see how that just drastically affects how the world looks just with that slider right there. Tint, this pretty much just makes your colors more intense or less intense. I think it actually inverts them a little bit. So it inverts them one way and inverts them another, kind of like that. You can mess around with that too. Again, all of these, you know, you don't have to I highly suggest you don't follow exactly what I'm doing. Actually, see, you go in and you see exactly what makes your world sort of pop. With post-processing, that's what I really, really love about it, is that it's very, you gain a lot of independence with it, a lot of creativity, a lot of creative freedom with it. Color filter you can add on, and it kind of just like puts a filter over the color of everything. You know, if I change it to blue, it really makes everything blue. If I change it to white, it really doesn't do anything at all. Hue Shift, this is just another RGB slider. You can make it look like a fucking raven here. I'm gonna leave that at 0 because I like my blue. Saturation, this makes the colors just a little bit deeper, a little bit more intense if you have it up really, really high. Contrast is the lack or abundance of color. So if you turn it all the way down, you're gonna get, wait, where's that saturation? That's saturation. Okay, so if you turn saturation all the way down, you get a black and white scene. And if you turn it all the way up, you get some really, really deep, intense colors. And contrast, that pretty much just makes it, I don't even know how to describe that, really contrasted, I guess. You can mess around with that too. Drag it, you know, if you drag it down, you get this sort of like grayish overlay. You turn it up, you get this nice deep dark sort of thing there. And you can mess around with all of these settings too. I don't really I've never really messed around with these, but you can feel free to see what happens. That's gamma, gain, and lift. Those are all like brightness settings, I believe. Depth of field, I don't think I could ever get this to do anything. It's like focus distance. That may do something when you're in game, but I've never tested it before. Focal blur size, very large, you know, turn the aperture, focal length, and all that stuff all the way up. It doesn't really seem like anything changes, so I just usually leave that off. Grain, it adds this sort of grainy field into your vision like that. You can create some pretty cool looking stuff maybe with that if you wanted to. Turn the size up, all that stuff. I'm gonna leave that off for this scene though. Lens distortion, let speak for itself really. Gonna leave that off. Motion blur, I don't know what this does. I think this probably is something that only affects like the like in game. Again, it adds motion blur on into your scene. Pretty cool. Screen space reflection, this only works with a deferred rendering path, so I don't think this is actually going to do anything. Yeah, that doesn't do anything for me. You can try to figure that out for yourself if you so desire. And then Vignette, it has this sort of dark circle around your scene, and that shows in game again. So if I go in right now and I have this Vignette up a little bit, Vignette, I don't know, Vignette, I don't know how to pronounce it. But if I go in right now, there's gonna be a little circle around my view in the world. So, and that looks pretty cool. So I'll actually leave it on, just like I'll just leave the intensity down a little bit. And now you have a scene that looks like this. I mean, and you can again turn post-processing off and on and off, and you can just see the difference that that made, just like that. So that is really, really, really cool. I recommend having post-processing on a trigger because a lot of people, some people don't like it, some people do. I really like it. You don't have to use it if you do not want to. But I think it really can start making your world sort of pop off. So yeah, so that's pretty much going to be it for this lesson. I'm going to show you how you can really quickly test your VrChat world before you use it or before you publish it. If you want to publish your world onto the servers, click build and publish for Windows. But you generally want to test and make sure everything's working good. So I usually force non VR because it forces you on the desktop and you don't have to put your VR headset on if you have one. And then you just click build and test. And you wait for it for a little bit. It takes a little bit of time. Just check my phone real fast. It's on the other side of the room. Get my charger on it. When you have post-processing, it usually takes a little bit more time to load in because it's got to load in all of your effects and stuff. And yeah, this just takes a while. It's of course building an entire VrChat world right before your eyes. So just give it a little bit, give it some time, cut it some slack. And you can skip ahead in this. Unfortunately, I'm not watching a video, so I have to sit here and wait for it to build. Joy. All right, so I'm gonna drag this over. And it'll show you the world download size, 16.7 megabytes for me. And we are in. Look at that. Ooh, nice. Nice. It's called Z fighting. That's another lesson for another day. So this is where you can go in and start making adjustments as you see fit in your Unity scene. This is where you can check the frame rate. Of course, I have Unity open right now, so sometimes it's not very accurate because Unity is obviously a very resource demanding thing. But you know, I get 90 FPS in here on desktop with Unity open, so, and Streamlabs, and I'm recording, so I think that's a pretty good sign. You can walk around, see the scale of things. You can test your triggers like we made. This button here, got the mirror on now. You can look at your avatar in the mirror, make sure your avatar looks good. My avatar looks pretty good. I can pull my wings out. Ah, good to be home. And again, you can turn this off. You can walk out here. Hopefully I fit just fine. Your friend's gonna be in here ready to meet you. Hello, friend. It is good to be here. Make sure you delete him whenever you are finished with everything, of course. You got your fire pit down here. I'll show you how to add a fire into this next week. And surprisingly, those stairs I made actually work just fine. And you can step into here too, and it looks great. And the skybox looks good. And now we can click this, and we're going to teleport out to here, just as we made. And we can click back on this, and we can teleport back to here, just like we did, just like we set up. So the world's looking pretty damn good. There's only a couple more things that we really have to go over, which are sound design, particle systems, and importing custom prefabs from websites like Sketchfab or DeviantArt, and I will teach you all of those things in the next lesson, really. And that one's probably going to be pretty short. That's really going to be probably the end of this series. And again, once you take all of that knowledge and you start applying it and mastering it, and you do master it in the end, really the only thing that's going to be your limitation is your creativity. And you'll be able to create whatever the hell type of VrChat world you want, just about. So that's really fucking cool to me. That's something that I really take a lot of pride in. So thank you for watching, and I will see you either next week or the week after that with probably what's going to be the final episode of my crash course here on YouTube. So thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon.